Competition and rivalry between states is very much the norm in international relations, and indeed, one might say, a defining feature of modern-day diplomacy. But when competition and rivalry takes on an adversarial turn between two superpowers, the dynamics in international relations could well become supercharged as well. If relations become unchecked, the consequential impact could spell dire, if not altogether disastrous consequences for the rest of the world. Here, we are reminded of the Thucydides trap and the sinister warning of the risk of war breaking out between the rising power and the incumbent, quote-unquote, ruling power. Certainly no one but a few would want that to materialize, leaving aside, of course, the ever-burgeoning military complex or complexes situated wherever they may be. Is there some way out of here, as Bob Dylan would tell us or ask us? Or would it be a case of getting out of the frying pan into the fire? In other words, is there an effective way to deal with this formidable challenge that's confronting these two giants? Namely, to get out of the frying pan of Thucydides and escape falling into the fire of Churchill's trap. In other words, are we prepared to see a revival of a long-drawn Cold War and repeat the errors of our ways as was played out between the US and the USSR in the not-too-distant past? What is the alternative, one might ask, in light of the current Sino-US conflict? If geographical demarcation is no longer the yardstick for staking claims, perhaps hegemonic war and Cold War may not be the only alternatives. Today, it is clear that competition and rivalry between China and the US has taken a turn for the worse. That will impact the regional geostrategic order and its corresponding architectures and norms for the foreseeable future. We see the resulting tensions across numerous fronts: strategic, political, tactical, and economic, leading up to the next level of battle of influence. Thus, we see a race for engagement and influence in regions around the world, and Southeast Asia has become a prime ground for the new great game. There couldn't be a more strategic area or arena. Vast, diverse, resources-rich region with an emerging market, relatively young population, and outward-looking policies that have made the region an opportunity neither power would want to miss. For China, you see the engagement through the expanded market access facilitated by various bilateral and even multilateral trade pacts, while going on overdrive in economic diplomacy via enhancing cooperation in e-commerce, digital economy, infrastructure development, and of course, under the Belt and Road Initiative. These interests have expanded to include, of course, anti-terrorism, climate change, cybersecurity, and cross-border law enforcement. For the US, we see them seeking to reassert influence in Asia after much criticism and, of course, ever-rising questions over their role in commitment to the region. They have sought to deepen its economic involvement and enhance security cooperation with both old and new partners, all working towards ensuring the continuation of their Indo-Pacific strategy. But we should also be looking at this from another perspective, which is ours. As Malaysians and as Southeast Asians, and a question that is often asked is, do we need to choose a side in the first place? Perhaps the question we should be asking is if a side will be chosen for us instead. This is something we must need to think about carefully. We need to recognize that Malaysia is in a position that is both advantageous but also precarious. We are an integral part of a multilateral mechanism, and global supply chains, And so to split this between two major powers can and will interrupt the seamlessness and interconnectedness that we have long enjoyed. So fortunately, to help us unpack this complex conundrum, allow me to welcome James Crabtree. He is currently the Executive Director of IISS-Asia. Previously, he was Senior Policy Advisor in the UK Prime Minister's Strategy Unit under Tony and Gordon Brown, and was also with the Financial Times, most recently as the Mumbai Bureau Chief. The rivalry and tensions at hand has been compared to quite often to the Cold War, as I alluded to earlier, with some even calling it the so-called new Cold War. We should avoid taking such a direct comparison, notwithstanding the fear of Thucydides and Churchill, as tempting as it may be. Rather, we should acknowledge the unique history of rivalries in regional contexts and understand that tensions created by this rivalry will continue until a new equilibrium is found. And it is in our best interest to learn how best to navigate through. Thank you.